Ready, go for it, go for it.
Okay, good morning, Tony. Nice to see you. I apologise for my technical issues. Always something that could happen, doesn't normally happen to me. How are you today?
I'm very well. Good morning to you, Shona. I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, technical issues make it sort of interesting, don't they? So no problem there.
Excellent. I'm glad you're so understanding. So, for those people that don't know who you are, would you mind just introducing yourself a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So my name's Tony Bapuji, and I set up my company Helping Your Property, and I look at creative ways to help people with their property problems. I've got to be careful how I describe that because it makes me sound like a window repairer or something. But it's looking at sort of creative business strategies without meaning to sound pompous or fancy. That it's very down to earth. It's quite straightforward. So that's me in a nutshell.
Excellent. So could you give us an example of one of these strategies that you might be trying to put together to help out a seller?
Yeah. So take the case of someone who's got a property on the market and it's just not selling. You know, maybe they've listed it with a few estate agents and they're thinking about dropping the price, but they really want that price. They don't want to drop it. And it's not shifting. So I'll give you an example. I'm looking at a property at the moment in a posh part of London, and it's that the owner wants about 700,000 for it, um, but it's not really moving. Now they reckon that when it's done up, when it's nicely refurbished to a high quality, a high standard, they reckon the market value will be worth 1.1 million. So the question is, well, why don't they do it themselves? The thing is, A, they can't be bothered, and B, they don't really want to raise the finances because I think they're already quite leveraged up. So what we can look to do for them is something called an assisted sale. So I can raise the finance for them. So it works like this. The refurb estimate is about 65,000. So I'm going to have a more detailed estimate and break it down more finely to get a more exact figure. And then I'll add on contingencies. So say it's 70,000 and I'll maybe I'll add 30,000 perhaps for legals and other bits and pieces. And I'll look to raise that money perhaps through a private investor. And the time for the refurb is about 2 to 3 months. But I wouldn't borrow it for 2 to 3 months. I'd borrow it for longer for unforeseen eventualities. And also because in order to repay the lender, we'd need to sell the property to raise the money to pay them back. So here's the thing. I'm not actually buying the property. I'm borrowing money from someone to put it into the owner's property to do the refurbishment. And then effectively, we're going to sell it together. I'm going to take back the borrowing, and then me and the owner can do some sort of profit share, which we mutually agree to. So there is basically it's risk reduction. And also it's helping the owner because they can get a higher price than they would have done. So they're struggling to get 700,000 at the moment, but they can actually get more in the long run, substantially more in this case. And also I'll share the profit with them. So I make my profit, I do the due diligence, I put in the work. I've got an acquaintance, a sourcer, who I trust. I'm starting to get to know them and I feel I could work with them. Now, here's a great thing. They're effectively an informal interior designer because they've done lots of sort of refurbs and they've got an eye for detail and precision and they know what works and what doesn't work. And they're pretty savvy with the finances and the way deals stack. So the intention is to let them do the design and they can oversee the project management part. I'll pay them 10%, which I think is fair. That's what I've offered. It should take about 2 months. but we're going to put in a timeline of over a year, because the market's very unpredictable at the moment, shall we say. So what if it takes a year to sell? You know, I don't want to sort of be worried about my investor and letting them down, and they might need that money for something else. And also, I'm going to feel pretty uncomfortable if I can't pay them back in the right time. So it's what they call an assisted sale. Here's the thing: if I were to buy it off them and do it myself and the refurbishment and sell it on again, I'd have to find a lot more than 100,000, and also I'd have the stamp duty when I buy it, and possibly there'd be some capital gains tax when I sell it, I imagine. This way, it never leaves the owner's ownership.
Mm.
So I'm not the one who pays the stamp duty. So it's really helpful for me. I don't need such a large amount of money to invest to get that property.
Yeah.
And also, hopefully, if it all works out, the owner will be more than happy at the end of the day. So these are the sort of things that I look to do. So it's a win-win-win situation for everybody.
Yeah. So for example, that example that you gave, if it was worth the 700, you would agree on paper that it was worth the 700,000 right now, right? And that you would agree that you would put in 100,000 to do it up to make it worth the 1.1 million, so that when you sold it, the what's left, 300k in between, you would work out, maybe you get a 50-50 share of the uplift. Is that kind of how it works?
Absolutely, exactly, yeah. So they're struggling to get the 700k at the moment. They can easily get more. They can just sit back and relax, and me and my project manager, designer, multi-talented person, she and me will take care of it all, and then we'll make our profit.
Cool.
So,
And what kind of paperwork do you need for those kind of things?
so I leave that to my legal team. You know, I leave you want to work with someone who's specialist in this kind of things. That's called an assisted sale, and normally it's not the high street solicitors who do the sort of legalities of it. So the first step is to get something called a heads of terms, where all the parties sit down together and they agree that the terms and conditions, and we write it down in a document, and then we sign it that we agree to it. And then we hand it over to the specialist solicitors who've got sort of regular and proven experience in this kind of field. And they put together a contract with the safety nets. So for example, I'll put the contract together, or my solicitor will put the contract together with the safety nets to protect me, while being fair to the other parties. And then the solicitors for the other parties, or party in this case, will naturally go through it and perhaps have some questions. And hopefully it'll go in a straightforward way, and we won't have to keep going back and forth too much. Because there's a large amount of money being lent, it's possible that the investor will want some security in case things go wrong. So typically that would be a first charge on the property. If there's a mortgage on it, it could be a bit trickier, because that means you'd have to get what's called a second charge. And that is that the first charge is that if things go wrong, and the lender, which if there were a mortgage would be the bank or the building society, they'd be the first one in the queue to recover their money. And the second charge person will be the second in line. So really, it's not as sure for the second charge lender of getting their money back. It depends if the first charge person wants to sell the property and recover their money. So the second charge person doesn't get a say in it. And if there's not enough money for the second charge person, they won't get their full money back. So it's not as secure. So it's better to do it on an unmortgaged property, where the private investor lender, in this case, would be able to put a first charge on the property. If they can't get a security on that property, perhaps the owner of the property's got another property on which they can have security, so they can cross-charge it to a different property. So really, it's about what works for each person in the party.
No, that's really good. And I think when people go in to help a seller, sometimes they'll know of some strategies, but not well enough to know the right questions to ask. So for example, when you find out, I don't know, you've got a direct to vendor lead. So you go to visit this person, you go to their house, you know that they're trying to sell the property. Let's work on a different one. And let's say the cost of this is 500,000. And it's been on the market for like a year and a half and it's not sold. So when you first go there, how do you firstly build rapport with the vendor? And secondly, what questions do you need to know the answers to before you can work out what solution works for them?
Yeah, those are great questions. And I think you build rapport with the vendor sincerely, because it's a one-to-one, it's a face-to-face or Zoom to Zoom, a bit like we're doing now, to just find out about them, a bit about their life. And of course, a lot of people are guarded because you're a stranger, they don't know you. So you need to sort of respect that and not sort of push where they're being resistant if you feel it's not a place to go. So sometimes it's a question of several meetings. Well, often it's a question of several meetings, several conversations, building that rapport and trust. But it's about finding out what works for them, and it's about finding out what their intentions are, what their financial situation is, in order to get a better understanding of what works and what doesn't work. So for example, an obvious example, if they want to move quickly and they only need a certain amount of money, say the 500,000 was desirable, but actually they only needed 350 really, and they really needed that money quickly. If that's something that worked for them, then you could come to an agreement. You could give them a quick sale at a low price, and that would enable them to move on. It's important that there's something in it for you, not about being greedy, but you know, it's a living, it's not a charity. And if it doesn't work for you, you're just spending time helping people and not getting anything back. If you've got enough money to sustain yourself and you want to do that sort of thing anyway, that's fine. But I mean, most of us do it as to make a living, to earn money, to pay bills and just basic things like that. So it's got to work for all parties, really. So for example, if they said, well, I'll settle for 450,000, it could be that there's not much of a discount for you, and you're not really going to be able to do much with that. You'll just be stuck with it. On the other hand, if they wanted to get that price, and you try and find out why aren't they getting that price if it's been on the market for 6 to 12 months, is it a bit shabby and shoddy? Is there something that the viewers don't, the potential buyers don't like? So you can ask them. I tend to ask people for feedback. You know, have you had many viewings? Oh, we've had a few. And you sort of try and get a bit more clarity. Well, how many of you have you had, like 5, 10, 20, over what period of time? Excuse me. You just sort of ask it casually and put it in the conversation. And then you can say, well, have you had any offers? Oh, well, we've had some here, but none have been right. And you find out what the offers are, if they're willing to tell you. And it's important to try and find out what the feedback is, and to try and have it's important to have open-ended questions that are unlimiting, and to be expansive on those questions. Because sometimes people have got sort of a vague idea of what the issue is, but they don't have enough clarity on it to be able to express it. So by asking open questions and expanding on those questions and digging deeper, we can help them to focus and resolve the different issues going on. So it could be that they don't like the color scheme of a room, or they don't like the layout. I saw a property in Surrey, and there was a lounge, like an open plan lounge, but there was a staircase sort of to the side of the lounge, and you come through from a small porch area, a bit pokey, and go straight through into the kitchen. So I got the feeling, and when I asked the agent, it wasn't a direct vendor, other viewers got the feeling that there was something a bit unsettled about the place that didn't really work. It was neither really, it didn't feel like a lounge, it just felt like a hallway, a corridor. And they could have fixed it by perhaps changing the color scheme a bit and making it a bit more relaxing, but a basic thing like changing the furniture. Apparently, I suggested it to the agent because I thought there's nothing really I can do here. And the agent had suggested it to the owner, but I think they were quite adamant about how they wanted things. So it just got stuck like that. The sort of things that I might be able to do is something a bit more fundamental, like perhaps putting in a partition wall to split a room, or maybe if you've got, say, a narrow galley kitchen where people feel a bit cramped and imprisoned, if you like, it's often possible to break down the wall, making sure you liaise with your structural engineers and correct people and this sort of thing, to open up a space and expand it so you can have like a kitchen diner, for example. Do a little refurb, brighten it up, give it a sort of a more airy, spacious view with the use of light and color, of course, so that people love it and they can see that it's a place they could enjoy rather than endure. So there's two ways. Again, you can do it as an assisted sale and then share the uplift in profit, or if the vendor's got money, but perhaps they don't have the mindset or they can't be bothered to do it, you could do a sort of a vendor finance thing. You could borrow the money from them and pay them back. So there are different ways you can do it. If they don't have the money or they really don't want to spend the money, then you can do the assisted sales route. So it's really about finding out what works for that person. I'm sorry, I know I'm rambling on a bit.
Okay, let's ask a question, because I feel like if you work direct to vendor, that could work quite well because you've got their attention. When you're going through agents, how accepting are they to then take it to the vendor?
It's very difficult working with agents in that sort of capacity. So, for example, I do regular batches of direct-to-vendor letters. Excuse me, I've got a squeaky chair there. Direct-to-vendor letters with properties that perhaps I can see visually that they're a bit old and tired, or they've been on the market for a long time. And I'm finding in many cases, for whatever reason, the owner doesn't want to deal directly with someone like me. It seems they get a lot of letters from people looking to make what they perceive as private offers. And I think sometimes they feel they're trying to circumvent the agent, which maybe makes them feel uncomfortable, which you must never do, because it's, I think it's unethical, because the agents put in the marketing and the money, and they've got to pay for their rental and lighting and office and staff and make a living for their own lives and bills and mortgages. And it's not really right to sort of piggyback off their efforts and not give something back or give them what they deserve. So sometimes a vendor will say, oh, can we do a private deal? Or are you thinking of bypassing the agent? I'm like, no, it's not about that. It's much better to have a direct communication with you, because things get lost in translation with the agent. So to go back to your question, sorry, Shona, in some cases, the vendor gives the letter directly to the agent, and then the agent contacts me. And mostly they're very diplomatic. They have to be diplomatic because there might be a sale in it for them. Occasionally they're a bit disgruntled because understandably they think you're trying to cut them out of the deal, which you should never do. So I'm just playing around with the wording of my letters to try and make them more agent friendly, so that when an agent reads them, they can understand that they're not sort of being excluded. And I'm just going to try those and see what happens and see what sort of responses I get, because it's also about building trust with the vendor. So yeah, to go direct to vendor and have that rapport, that conversation with the vendor is much better. I have tried these sort of things with agents. Many of them don't understand it. One of them had done a course, so they understood things like lease options. Because they're worried that it'll delay the sale, they might lose out on their commission. So really, they've only got the strategy of put it on the market, get a quick sale or get a solid sale early on, as opposed to years in the future, and get the commission up front. So in order to bring them on board, you have to make sure they get paid first. So for example, a few months back, I sent a batch of direct vendor letters, and one of them was in Southwest London. And I got a call from the agent, and they sort of gave me a bit of a grilling, and they said, oh, there's this property, would you like to see it? And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do this. And I met them on site with the head of sales and the head of lettings, which was great, because I told them what I wanted to do and what I was thinking of doing. And this property had been in the market for 2 years, and it was on at I think it was on about 885,000. That's the outskirts of London, a posh part of town. So, you know, up north, it would probably be a tenth of the price. And the owner didn't want to budge on the price. I think they'd reduced it by about 10K. Hadn't had that many viewings. It was a bizarre place. There was a garage conversion into a bedroom, but from the outside, it still looked like a garage, which I found a bit disconcerting. Because if I look at it from the outside, if I see what looks like a blue double door of a garage or a blue garage door, I expect there to be a garage, not a bedroom behind it. And I think that might have put some people off. The other thing, they might have done it to keep in sort of visual keeping with the other properties, or perhaps they didn't get the required sort of lawfulness certificates or requirements. Yeah, so they wanted to keep it looking like a garage. Half the property was in the 21st century. The other half was in the 1970s. It had 2 or 3 split level floors, which I found very unsettling, because it's neither one thing nor another. So the letting agent was very helpful. She had an idea of what to do with the refurbs, how to style it and design it, how much it would cost even. So I said, look, you know, if we can do a deal, you can sell it, you can get your commission, you can take it on letting agent as the rental part of it and get an income. So really, by working with the agent, they could have got a double commission. And I said, look, here's the sort of thing I can do. If the owner wants the full asking price, we can give them the full asking price, but let's do it as a long-term option. You know, we'll give them a deposit here today, not literally today, but, you know, up front sort of thing. Pay them an ongoing income. Why would you do that? As an incentive. So at the moment, you've got an empty property that's been empty 2 years. You've got the empty properties council tax, which is quite high because the councils are wanting you not to have empty properties because of the family housing crisis. So that's pretty high. You've got dead money, you've got the standing charges for the utilities, especially in winter when you need to keep the boiler going. And you've got home insurance for an empty property, which is a higher risk, which is very expensive. You know, you're talking easily £1,000 a year. So it's money out the door. They're not getting the sale. It's an expense. It's a liability. I said, I can take care of all that for you and pay you an income stream. Let's look at, I think it was £500 a month, for example, and paying the bills. And at the end of 7 years, you'll get your 875,000 minus the deposit that's already been paid. So in total, I think I worked out the total amount they'd be getting was 935,000. So they'd actually be getting their full asking price and more, including an income, and not having to worry about those bills. So what happens in the meanwhile, we do it up, we give it a light refurbishment to make it appealing and make it rent out. I think the rental, the agent appeared to be letting agent appeared to be quite upfront with me. She said, well, in an ideal time, you could probably get up to about 3.4K a month for this property, but these are unusual times. So you're looking about 2.4K, 2.2K, which I thought was a nice thing to say. So I thought, okay, I did my contingency and I thought, well, let's make it maybe 1.8K just to be on the safe side. And I would still be in profit. If it's a family there, they'll be taking care of the bills. I'll be taking in at least 1.8K, of which I'll give 500 a month to the owner. So I'm easily clearing £1,000 a month. So that's the way that it would work for me, and for both the sales agent and the letting agent and for the owner. Unfortunately, it wasn't something that the owner wanted to do. However, it's important to stay in touch because people change their mind over time. So I've got in my diary to check a month or two down the line to see what's going on with that property.
And I'm guessing because you met both the letting agent and the estate agent, I'm guessing that you built a bit of a relationship with them, that they might come back to you with a different property that you could do a similar thing with. Has that happened?
In theory, I think these particular agents, no disrespect to them, they're not very proactive. I think it's perhaps outside their mindset. And I think that the rapport we got is a bit tenuous, and I'm the one who has to do the chasing because there's another property that's on the market with them, totally different property in terms of location and size and price. It's been stuck on the market nearly a year. And actually, I viewed it with another of their viewing staff about a year ago. And I told them, I said, I'd already seen this property with Tom. It was on the market then. Here's a strategy we could do. I mean, they didn't really seem very interested. So they're not really pushing things. I think their feeling is, well, let's do it this way or not at all. But I mean, if I can help them, I will. If I can help everyone in the situation, I will. Other agents I've worked with this sort of thing, they're more responsive and proactive. So, for example, the agent through whom I bought my own home, I've been talking to him about this sort of thing, and he's open to it. Going back to these two agents with this big house for 875,000, I said, look, if we're doing a deal over 7 years, we'll make sure that you get your commission up front as part of the deal. That'll be paid, so you don't have to worry. And obviously you'll get your letting agent commission month after month. So they'll be happy. That'll be tied up in the legal contract as well. So better, short answer is better to work direct to vendor, but it's also possible to work with the agents. That property was on the house with 2 or 3 agents actually. And the agent who rang me, it wasn't the one through whom I'd seen the property on Rightmove. So because they acted first, they get in on any potential deal and sales commission quicker. So it's first off the blocks is the winner to the race.
Yeah. I tried to do an assisted sale recently, and it didn't work out. The vendor was lovely. The vendor liked me. They wanted to work with me, as far as I could tell. They knew my mission of starting a property school, so they were really interested in helping me start my property business, really. But obviously we're in a boom right now. So when I did my comparables, I said that the done up value would only be 340, and I had to make profit on doing the refurb and stuff. But then they'd spoken to an agent who had said it's worth 340 now, even before it's done up. And I had to say to them, well, it might be, you might be able to get that price now because we are in a boom. I said, but if I was going to be doing a refurb that would take a few months and then try and sell, I don't know if there's going to be a crash. I have to go on comparables of sold prices. And obviously it takes a bit of time for things to come on land registry. Whereas the agent, they'll know if they sold 10 properties in the last 2 months or in the process of selling them, whereas I wouldn't know that. So I had to say, oh, that's fantastic. I'm really happy for you. And I hope you do get that price. If for any reason you can't sell, then please do come back to me and keep in contact. So she messaged me the other day to say, oh, hi, Shona, I hope you're doing well. Just to let you know, we've had 3 offers over the 340. And so I just had to say I was really pleased for her. And I was worried it made me look bad because like I'd lied, but I hadn't lied at all. It's just, we have to put in contingency as well, don't we? Because imagine if I had assumed that it was worth the 340, and because we were going to do an extension and stuff, so maybe it would have been worth then 390, but I couldn't take the risk. Do you know what I mean? So I think she understood that, and she's still messaging me, so it must be all okay. But it was a very scary experience to have those negotiations. Do you know what I mean? It was scary.
Yeah, the growth, what they say, we were in the comfort zone, and comfort zone's like a circle. And someone said, what's outside the circle? What's outside the comfort zone? And he told me, he said, that's where the magic happens. And of course, it's about, as we're at that zone, that boundary, and we feel discomfort, we're expanding it, making the circle bigger, isn't it? So after 2 or 3 goes, things like that may be a bit daunting to us. They'll be commonplace the more we do it and the more we push ourselves. Sometimes we have a bad day where things feel scary and we just can't face them. We push ourselves a little bit, and that's a little step we need. And then we get onto a roll on a mindset. We push ourselves a bit more. And at the end of the day, we've won, you know, not necessarily with a deal, but we won over ourselves. You could say, it sounds like you built up a rapport with this person anyway. And you
So
could
they might
say,
tell somebody else about me. So who knows? It still might end up being something later. It's really important to keep a good relationship with everybody, I think, because you never know who's going to tell somebody else about what you do.
yeah, you could also perhaps incentivize her, you know, look, I'm looking for things like that. If you find anyone for me and it works out and we go to completion, or whatever that bar is, then, you know, I'll give you 250, 500, £1,000 or whatever it may be, you know.
Yeah,
Do
true.
that sort of thing.
I'm actually going to look at a place today, and to call up the agent to book the viewing was really, really scary a week ago, because yeah, it's like nearly £1 million, and that blew my mind. But a lot of people will say as well, but if you look at things at that kind of price range, you cut out a lot of the competition, because a lot of people won't look at things in that price range. So I did the viewing, I built the rapport with the vendor, I've got his number, I'm going to go see him again today or tomorrow. So it's all very exciting, but yeah, I had to push through to make the phone call to get the viewing, which wasn't that hard. Yeah, I've built quite a good rapport with the vendor. I've got to keep working on that, find out exactly what he needs, like you said, so I can try and offer him what he wants. And then I might end up getting, but I don't even have any money, but I might end up getting a property. And that just seems crazy to me, that everything might actually come together, that I'll end up getting something I want through talking to people. That's crazy.
Yeah, well done for going this far, you know. That's well done for going this far. I really hope it works out. Is this the one you showed me the other day, the video, or was it a different property?
Yeah, that one. Yeah. I won't say too much about specifics on this interview, because people will.
It's in Newcastle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in Newcastle. But maybe in a minute we'll stop recording and we'll have a more detailed chat. How would that be, Tony?
That'd be lovely. Yeah, that'd be lovely. Yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah. Is it all right to ask a bit more about your general sort of projects about schools and things like that?
Yeah, go on. What do you want to know?
Yeah. What's your sort of like your long-term plan? Because I think it's like something about supporting young people who are struggling, but using property as an outlet for a career, a foundation, self-esteem, that sort of thing. Would that be roughly right?
So basically, full time at the moment, I work in an alternative provision, which basically means it's a school for kids that don't necessarily fit mainstream education. Some people might call my school a behaviour school, but we don't like to call it that. So they're kids that get excluded, both temporarily and permanently. And I'm the curriculum manager, so I'm in charge of all the curriculum, all the teachers. I also teach art GCSE, I've taught media studies, ICT, lots of things before. But what I want to do is to create my own AP, alternative provision, which is, it won't be purely vocational, but the main focus will be on vocational certification. So I'm looking to, have kids go into, they'll be learning like plastering, plumbing, painting and decorating, but then they will actually go into real refurb projects and actually do it in real houses. And my inspiration for that is this is my garage, which I converted into a games room. I love a bit of arts and crafts, and I love to show people my artwork and be proud that I did it, I made that, and they can see it. And when people are like, oh, that's really good, it feels good. But this room is an arts and crafts project, and I can sit in something that I built and I made it into something else, and people can visit me and be inside it. Like, that is an overwhelming feeling that I can't really explain unless you've had that experience. But that's what I want to give to the young people, that they can be part of building a room in a house, or it might not be a house, it might be something else, and they can be inside it and feel proud that they made that. So yeah, vocational education is really important to me, because I just feel like sitting at a desk isn't how you learn things. I mean, you do learn some things that way, but for me, I'm a practical learner. I like to go out there, I like to do it. Even when people are showing me how to do things on the computer, I have to pause it, do it myself, watch the next bit, then do it myself, because that's how I learn. I do. And I feel like for young people, especially at the moment due to COVID, they really need to be re-inspired, because a lot of them have just given up. Like, you got to think, they've been out of school for a year. My kids are in school. Well, some of them are on site, some of them were teaching online, but there's a lot of kids that become totally disengaged. Nobody knows what they're doing. They've become accustomed to lying in bed every day. It is going to be really hard when we do actually go back to school. There are going to be, I'm telling you, loads and loads of kids that are not going to come back. And it's going to be really hard to get them back. So we need to think about what education models and strategies are we actually putting in place to engage young people. Because if you're not engaged in the thing that you're supposed to be learning, you're not going to learn it. Like, you've got a bit of hatred towards it. You don't want to turn up. So we really need to inspire people, and that's what I'm working on.
That's blown me away. You're a pioneer. You're a pioneer. It's your strength and folk determination of this is amazing. So really, it's vocational. It's about earning money, but it's about sense of purpose, fulfillment, and experiential, and a sense of pride, and really letting people understand how to build themselves up and take control of their future, their happiness, moment to moment sort of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's amazing. That's amazing.
I haven't done it yet. It's just a vision. But I've realized in the last few months that visions are really important. If you don't have the vision, you never will get there. And the more I tell people like yourself what I want to do, the more people say, that's great, you need to do that. And then that helps push me along. I'm like, okay, I need to keep going. Like I said, this project, this thing I'm looking at this weekend, yeah, it's a plot of land that I'm hoping that there's a grade 2 listed building that we could do some work in. That might become supported living for care leavers. We could possibly build another one in the back. So that's a lot of young people then have got somewhere to live. And on the one side of it, there's like some barns, and there's a mobile building which I could use as a classroom, but not like a sit down with desks classroom, more like a base, like when you go to work and you go in your coffee room and everyone has a chat. It's more like that. It's that we start there every day and we're like, right, this is what needs to happen today. Then we go into the grade 2 listed building. We're like, right, we need to decorate blah, 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 blah. And then we work that out. There's barns where you can learn. In those barns, we could have fake walls to learn the plastering, I don't even know all the things that they need to learn to do a renovation, but it would have all the bits. Yeah, I am really excited about it. But like I said, I don't have any money. But there are some people that have contacted me about working with me. And they're like, we want to try and help you get it. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like. I was hoping that if we could do some development on some of the land, then I might end up getting a little bit of the land for my school for free, if you know what I mean, because they would have made money off of it. I'm not sure if that's what the investor people are thinking, that they're talking to me. I need to have discussions because I don't have any specifics. I just know what I want. And I can't leave my job until I've got something secured. Even if I got the land, I can't hand in my notice and then just go to this bit of land, because I need to get the kids signed up. I need to have all the legal paperwork in place to make it. It might not be an actual school. It might start off as like a social enterprise. So my friend already does a social enterprise who is very similar thing. We might be working together. She's already started delivering entry 3 construction with a builder. So she'd be the perfect person to work with, because she could get kids in there straight away. She doesn't have to go to work at like 8 till 5 every day like I do. but I could still be involved until the point where I could make it more. So I don't know how it's going to work out, but I just want to get there, and there are lots of people supporting me like yourself. So who knows what can happen, right?
That's amazing. Sometimes when we've got big projects like that, and we want things done quickly, and it drags on and drags on. Sometimes we can lose momentum and like be a bit bewildered. Where am I now? You come out of the woods and suddenly a big field and you don't know which way to go. These people will help you stay on. I'm not saying that will happen, hopefully not, but if it does, these people will help you stay on track and help you with that momentum and remembering your vision. So it's great to have that long-term sort of support from everyone. They'll help you remember your vision. Similarly, if you get negative people and say, oh, why do you want to do this? Oh, this is not going to work. You can flip it in your mind, as you probably already know. So, right, I'm going to double my reaching out to contacts and supportive people and marketing, or the number of podcasts. I'm going to use it as fuel to move forward. So either way you win. If you get positive people, you ride with them. If you get negative people, you move forward anyway.
That has actually happened to me, not so much on the school idea, but more when I've asked some people for help. Generally, people are quite giving in the property industry, and I'm quite giving, I feel, as well. But there are some people that are like, oh, I'll help you with that, but only if you pay me. And then I'm like, no, that wasn't, I want to work with people. Do you know what I mean? And obviously we all want to make money, but I'm not at the point where I've got the money to pay out for things right now. The vendor's actually calling me right now. I might have to get off the call in a minute.
Yeah, do you want to pause it and we'll jump on in a minute? Go and take the call.
What's that? All right, I think we're recording again. Okay, right. I just wanted to apologise that I had to take that phone call, because when you've got a lead and it's hot, you need to take it, right? So thank you for waiting for me, Tony. I appreciate that. So what were we talking about? I was telling you all about what I want to do, and the young people, and how I really want to support them. Oh, I forgot to mention as well, I've got ADHD and I'm dyslexic, so I know what it's like to not be able to sit still. I need to get up and do things. And I just always like to put that out there, because some people who have got like a learning disability or special needs, they kind of hide it. And I like to actually be quite proud of it, to say that there are things that I'm not good at, but there are other things that I'm really good at. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there.
Well, thank you so much. And no worries about taking the call. It's important, as you say, you don't want a hot lead to go warm and cold. But I think not knowing about these sort of things, I imagine that's part of the thing that gets you moving and connected. It's about the flow and the energy. Because I thought maybe a past couple of months ago, I'm wondering if I've got, I think it's ADD. I'm not really sure of the difference between ADD and ADHD.
ADD is attention deficit disorder. So I actually have a diagnosis for attention deficit disorder. The one with the H is attention deficit hyperactive disorder. I don't actually have a diagnosis for that one, but I really do believe I have that, because I'm always quite hyper. But yeah, I don't actually have a diagnosis but those are the difference.
So I think I've got one of those, because my mind tends to wander a bit about. I think partly it's me just training myself to focus, but I think when you're moving things rapidly and you're expanding and following the branches of a tree, there's definitely creativity there. They define it in this, like this, the diagnostic and statistical manual of health disorders, mental health disorders, or whatever it is, but they're also positive sides, with, as we said, creativity. So important to recognize and embrace that part of that side of it. I say it to myself, sort of thing, if I've got those sort of traits, But so you made me think, actually, because I know you're all about helping the youth and creativity and inspiration and encouragement. And you reminded me of a poem written 20 years ago by a Japanese Buddhist peace activist who's very much into sort of real world action and resilience and perseverance and not giving up. So it's not about sort of meditation on the mountains or sniffing incense and watching the sun go down. And it was about his sort of respect and encouragement for the youth of today in this moment, in this century, at this time. Would it be all right if I read it out? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'll just call it up on my screen if I can find it. Oh, sorry, I've got it. Yeah, there you are. So what happened in 2018, there were 6,000 youth. They gathered in 3 cities, London, Manchester and Bristol, I think it was, to really sort of encourage and inspire other young people, because as we talked about earlier, there's a lot of sort of perhaps lack of hope, especially with young people. They're feeling left by the wayside, losing confidence, and where do we go now? We're just sort of existing. So here's a poem that the guy is called Daisaku Ikeda, and here's what he wrote. So he says, "This is your age. The future rests in your hands. I hope you will make the 21st century truly wonderful. Please make it a century in which the life of each individual is cherished and respected to the utmost. A century without discrimination, without bullying, war, or murder. A century in which no child cries with hunger, in which no mothers or children take their own lives in despair. A century without environmental destruction. A century free of academic elitism, greed, and materialism. A century in which human rights are upheld as the most precious treasure. A century of true democracy in which people exercise sound judgment and pay no heed to the lies of the mass media. I hope you will make it a century in which each of your precious dreams comes true and your unique individuality blossoms to the fullest. To realize these goals, it is vital that each of you achieve victory and that each of you grow into people who possess both real ability and the sincerity to understand the hearts of others. Your victory will be the victory of the 21st century. You are our only hope." Daisaku Ikeda, July 2000.
Thank you for that, Tommy.
Yeah, it's amazing. So there we are. It's recorded, and you'll be able to choose what you want to do or not with it. The choice is yours. I just thought it was beautiful. I'll pop it across in chat or something. You can just see it there and see what it means or doesn't mean to you.
Excellent. What I'll do is when I post the video, I'll also put a link to it underneath so people can read the poem if they want to as well.
Okay, if you feel it's right for your video, yeah.
Oh, it's like this. You wanted to say it. We put it on there, Tony. You are the precious guest. I'm just the person that I just bring this together. But you are the guest. So whatever you want to say is what gets put out there.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh.
I actually have to go now because I promised the family that we will go for a walk to a nature reserve.
Lovely.
It's been lovely talking to you today. And once I spoke to my vendor, I might have to have another chat with you about what I find out.
Yeah, please do. I'd love that. Yeah. Well, I won't say goodbye. I'll say see you later then. Yeah.
See you later then, Tony.
Thank you so much, Shona. Lovely to see you again, and thanks for our conversation. And have a lovely afternoon at the nature reserve with the family.
I will do, and you have a lovely afternoon too.
Thank you so much.
See you later.
See you soon. Bye.